After decades of news in California being dominated by far left-wing media companies and having no alternative on the center or the right, all of that is about to change this week as a new publication is launched, and it's a familiar name with major backing. Coming up, I invite you to check out and subscribe to the California Post. I want to give you a walkthrough of their inaugural edition and all the great stories they have, but stick around. We're going to be joined by their editorial director in just a moment, and I'm going to interview him on the plans they've got to compete with the far left media in California and how you can help. Stick around. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative. And you know that for years we have struggled with the bias of California's overwhelmingly liberal media enterprise. There is no source of center-right perspective or even balanced perspective on California news. All of the newspapers, except for one or two here and there, are overwhelmingly left-wing. And of course, all the local news stations, TV stations, are completely left-wing. We don't get truth or balance from media in California, and as a result, voters are kept in the dark as to what's really going on. But if we can change that, if we actually can have one, just one, center-right source of news focused just on California, well, I think that would be a game changer. And we're about to see that happen. This week, the California Post is launching. And it might sound familiar. California Post, ever heard of the New York Post? The New York Post is, considered to be center-right, although I consider it more just to be balanced. And it's owned by Rupert Murdoch, the same guy that owns Fox News Channel. The New York Post enterprise has made a significant investment in California in the form of the California Post. And this week is their inaugural launch. Here's their website, californiapost.com. Right now, it's still, I think, hosted on the New York Post servers. So if you go to nypost.com/CA, you'll get this landing page. But go to californiapost.com and you'll also see the stories. Now, mind you, they are also a print edition. Here's a picture of the print edition and my op-ed in today's edition: How to End the Cost of Living Crisis in California. But the California Post will cover, obviously, national topics from a fair point of view, a centrist point of view. Here they've got their launch article, California Post heralds a new era for the Golden State, fearlessly telling you the stories that matter. There's also pop culture coverage in the California Post. And remember, California has Hollywood. So having a cultural bend to the paper, well, it's common sense. New York Post has been famous for having Page Six, which was kind of like the gossip column of everything happening in New York. You're going to see a similar flavor here in the California Post. They got great editorials. Today's top editorial: housing in California is too expensive, but there's a solution. And they've got amazing investigatory reports. This is stuff that you won't see any newspaper in California cover. Here's an exclusive that they have: how LA bankrolls anti-cop lefty Olympics hating activist group using $1.4 million in taxpayer funds. And so it's an investigative story from the California Post about how the city of Los Angeles, which is facing $1 billion budget deficit and is raising taxes and is beset by all sorts of scandals and problems, is using $1.4 million of local taxpayer funds to basically launder money to a left-wing group that advocates the abolishment of police, canceling the 2028 Olympics, although I'm not so sure LA should be hosting that big party given its condition. and of course, halt all rent and mortgage payments. Gee, uh, free candy for everyone and no one gets fat. It's called Strategic Actions for a Just Economy, SAGE. And they're getting all this money from LA city taxpayers, directed by LA liberal politicians, weaponizing your taxpayer money against you in all forms. So amazing stories. But also, my op ed is in the inaugural issue. How to End California's Worsening Cost of Living Crisis. Politicians must stop lying. And it goes on to basically talk about how I think cost of living needs to be the number one issue for Republicans and any common sense candidates and activists and voters to focus on. Plus, we talk about the cost of living penalty for living in California, according to the Transparency Foundation, $29,753.16. So I've got a surprise for you. We've got the editorial director for the California Post with us. And I'm going to have him explain, what their strategy is to compete with far left media in California, as well as some of the things that you're likely to see them cover in the coming weeks and months. And joining me is Joel Pollack. He is the editorial director for the new California Post, launching today. Joel, you must be really excited, but I also know you're really exhausted because you and I were trading emails and text messages all weekend. Tell me about your initial thoughts to the debut of your publication.
Well, we're super excited, and it's been months of build-up. The newsroom started as about half a dozen people on the entire floor of the building. It was very quiet. We could hear each other's conversations no matter what part of the office we were in. And now it's like the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, it's just constant activity. You can probably hear some of it behind me. The sports section is right over my right shoulder here, and we've got the news desk over there. This is the opinion department, but essentially this is just up and running, and there's a buzz here. People love the first issue. We've really touched a nerve with the story about affordability, and we've got some really great stories on deck for this week. You're not going to want to miss those.
I previewed a couple of the stories just a moment ago before you joined us. Now, the California Post is owned and operated by the same folks that run the New York Post. So this isn't just some fly-by-night conservative blog website that's put up. You guys are in it for the long haul with a significant investment in California. But most people will say print is dying. A lot of newspapers are shuttering their doors. We just heard rumors that Washington Post is going to lay off nearly 100 reporters. What is the business strategy behind your entry into California?
As I understand it, the business strategy is to come in and dominate, because there really is a vast untapped market in California. And if you look at conservative publications that have been very successful, actually, in at least capturing the sentiments of a conservative audience, you look at California Globe, you look at John Fleischman's blog, So Does It Matter, there's really great material out there. 40% of Californians voted Republican in the last presidential election, almost 40. So that's a huge number of people. We're talking, I don't know, what is it, 16 million people? Well, I guess the kids don't vote, so it's not that many, but but it's a huge number of people. And the strategy is to come in and succeed and serve not just that market. It's not just for Republicans. It's obviously a bipartisan paper, which just demands accountability from leadership. And increasingly, Democrats are also seeing that they're not getting what they're paying for from their local or state governments. So the plan is to come in and to serve a public that is underserved, that needs an alternative voice. And on the first day, it feels like we're doing that.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant business strategy. When you have all the newspapers in the state, with rare exception, a couple here and there, and all the local TV stations in the state spewing out far left-wing philosophy, what it means is that people who don't want to hear that crap and don't believe in that crap and don't trust in that crap, they basically tune them out, unsubscribe, but they're definitely still hungry for quality news, truth, perspective. And so I think it's a brilliant business strategy.
What I think is important to remember, and what you've pointed out in so much of your research that you've done as a legislator, is that left-wing ideas don't work. We can debate different ideologies, and we can find different things to like or dislike on the right or on the left in terms of principle. But when it comes to the test of what actually works, left-wing ideas simply don't work. When you read the LA Times or the New York Times and Republicans are in office, their standard theme is, we don't like what Republicans are doing. When Democrats are in office, their standard theme is, why isn't anything Democrats are doing working? You know, it's like they get the people elected that they want to get elected, and then they stand around and wonder why nothing works. It's because many left-wing policies don't take human incentives and human behavior into account. And so you end up in situations where you have perhaps noble ideals, but you have the opposite result of the one you intended. Whereas Republicans say what they want to do, at least in the best of cases. Believe me, they can be corruptible as well. But generally speaking, more conservative ideas tend to work. And that's what the left has a problem with. But Californians are hungry for things that work. We may not have, let's say, collectively conservative instincts about what we want to see. But fundamentally, we want roads that work. We want police that protect us. We want schools that teach our kids. We want water in the case of a fire. We just want the basics. And right now, we're not getting it. That's where the California Post wants to come in.
So you've only been out there for a few hours now with your publication, and you're already getting attacked by Governor Gavin Newsom. Here is his press hack, Brandon Richards, who, by the way, is funded with state taxpayer money. But he mainly posts about, politics and campaigns. He says, quote, "They officially just launched, but we've had to send them nearly daily corrections for an entire month. This is not a serious outlet. Californians should treat it the same as its twin, the New York comic book." What's your thoughts?
First of all, as you point out, he's paid by the taxpayer. The test of whether or not I get to keep my job is going to depend on my success in selling newspapers. The test of whether he gets to keep his job is not dependent on how well he does it, which is why he still has it. We have tried to have a positive relationship with the governor's office. I have my own issues, primarily because I come from Pacific Palisades, which burnt down, so I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder. But yes, we have interacted with the governor's office. They have sought corrections. They have a habit, by the way, of seeking corrections to articles that are actually correct, where they just don't like what we said. Once in a while, we do make a small mistake, and I tried pointing out to that individual that there was a mistake we made. He was upset that a headline at the New York Post, not the California Post, a headline misidentified the billionaire tax as Gavin Newsom's idea, and Gavin Newsom says he opposes the billionaire tax, so the headline was fixed. But he just wants to discredit the entire publication. If they gave as much energy to helping the taxpayers, helping the residents of California, as they do to correcting the media, maybe we'd be in a better place. But maybe they're just a bit jet lagged from flying to Switzerland to yell at the president.
Yeah. Look, they don't have to correct the other publications because the other publications literally are at their bidding. They do their bidding, they carry their water, they take the press releases without challenge and print it all up. The fact that you guys are at least kicking the tires. And when people say, oh, it's a conservative publication, I correct them. I say, no, it's centrist. It may seem conservative in comparison to the far left-wing philosophy that you see on every other editorial page and in every other news story. But you guys are not trying to be conservative. You're really trying to get it right and just throw the ball across the plate.
Well, let's distinguish between the news department and the opinion department. The news department is just trying to get the story. And the opinion department is going to feature a variety of opinions. I'm unabashedly conservative, but that doesn't mean I can't have a conversation with someone who's on the left. It's not that we have to find the mushy middle ground. It's that fundamentally we're all human beings. And if the left has a strong case to make, we want to hear that case. We want to engage with the strongest opposing case. And occasionally we will change our minds. That's the point of having a dialogue. That's why you have an opinion page. You want to change people's minds. And it does happen. But if we just stand and yell at each other all the time and say, not a serious publication, it's not a serious response. You have to engage. Plus, we're investing in the state. You'd think that they'd be happy. These can be the jobs that Gavin Newsom brags about when he runs for president, right? So a little short-sighted, I thought.
Absolutely. So it is a print publication in addition to being a digital publication. And I shared with people a screenshot of the actual true newspaper. How can people subscribe? And you told me this morning that people can actually get this delivered directly to their front door.
CaliforniaPost.com. You can also find it at nypost.com. There's a California tab or series of verticals there on that website, and it's just going to be great. I mean, I love getting the paper physically, because often when you have a physical paper, you read stories you didn't intend to read. You know, it's just fascinating, and maybe you have the guilty pleasure, if you like politics, of flipping to the gossip pages, the page 6, and great sports section. I mean, my 10-year-old son is not that interested in politics, but I flip the paper over and give him the sports section, and he reads it. So it's great to have a physical paper.
Well, look, I'm going to encourage everyone who watches this podcast, you need to subscribe. Even if you just test drive it, do a test drive subscription. If you don't like it, you can always cancel. But I think if you subscribe, you're going to love it. And you're going to help get more and more news and information out in California that is balanced. And so I encourage everyone, do go to the website, californiapost.com, and do subscribe. Because this is important that we have at least one outlet in California that's not far left wing and is willing to do the job of independent journalism. Joel, thank you so much.
Thanks,
congratulations
Carl.
on the launch. We're so proud. It's a long time coming, but we are very thrilled with the initial product, and we look forward to working with you in the months and years to come.
Thanks so much.
All right, that does it for me. Remember, like and subscribe to this channel, and also check out reformcalifornia.org and join the fight to take back our state from the far left, from the insanity of the far left. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state.